episode, it is time for another #AYearathon wrap up, and I have a bit of a cold, so excuse me if I sound kind of rubbish. I hope it's okay. Anyways, the theme for this month was LGBTQAAP+, which for those of you who don't know stands for lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer, questioning, asexual, ally, and pansexual. Plus is for everything that's not specifically included in this, but also belongs to the queer community. I actually started a week early, so I had 2 weeks of reading for this, which is also why I managed to read 3 whole books, because I'm writing an essay on the one, so I had to start early. Yeah, let's get started. The first book I read was Carry On by Rowell. I've been meaning to read this for so long and I absolutely love it. So this is a kind of subplot from Rowell's other novel Fangirl, because in Fangirl the protagonist is writing a fanfiction herself, and basically this is the fanfiction, which in itself is a really cool idea to do that. We all know it. She's not acknowledging it, but we all know it. This is basically a Drarry fanfiction, so Draco and Harry from the Harry Potter world. But there's also so much more. Like, I was expecting all this sweet fluff and love, and that was there, and there's also so many references to like Harry Potter, Draco and all that stuff. So there's a lot of that, and there were many times where I just have to laugh and grin because it was so obvious what was meant by it. But she kind of took a whole another twist on a lot of things. The ending is completely different. It just blew my mind, and it's so well written, and all these little love scenes are so wonderful. I really loved the best friend of the protagonist, because there aren't two, but it's like he only has one best friend, Penelope, I think it's her name, and she's just like, she's really intelligent, but she's also kind of clumsy, and I really like this combination. What I also liked is that we have different chapters from different point of views, mostly the protagonist and the boyfriend, but also some other point of views that just add up to the story itself, but also to our understanding of the people. I always like that. However, there are some chapters where the point of view ends a bit abruptly in really interesting or romantic anecdotes, where I just want to put the book down, or like, yeah, leave out some pages to get to the point where it continues. So I thought that maybe some chapters could be put together and some could be left out. But altogether, I really enjoyed this book. I think it's good to have read the Harry Potter books before, but I also think that it's good to have read Fangirl before this, because you get a bit of the, like, there were some scenes in this where I could really imagine the protagonist from Fangirl writing that. The next book I read was Openly Straight by Konigsberg, which is something I was really interested in the concept, because it's about a boy who is openly gay at his school, but he's just so sick of everyone seeing him as the gay kid and only as that. So he transfers to a different school and decides to not tell anyone that he's gay. So it's kind of a non-label experiment, I guess. And it's really interesting. This is also the one I'm writing an essay about, hence the notes. But I thought not only was it really well written, that we really get the emotions, but there's what I've found really great about it is that it doesn't only focus on the labeling thing, but also on other issues of discrimination. So it's also about skin color and about mental health and stuff like this. Not like mainly, but they are mentioned on the side, and I think that's really important that the main character notices that. What I also found very important is that there are lots of different point of views and opinions on labels and coming out. So there's not only the story of the protagonist, which also changes throughout time, but there are also opinions and experiences of other people, which was mainly interesting for me as a non-labeler, because I also got to kind of experience the good sides of being out and being labeled. So altogether, Openly Straight is just it was really moving in many different ways, but it was also so intellectually interesting in the sense of I learned a lot. So I think this is something that if you're new to this whole community and new to the thought of labels, I think this is a really good book to kind of find yourself in the society. So I'd really recommend reading this. And the third book I read was Every Day by David Levithan. Again, no idea how to pronounce his last name. But I've heard a lot of amazing things about this book in the booktube community and also on Goodreads. So I decided to pick it up, also because it's the book of the month for the hashtag AYearathon. And I loved it. I really loved it. Basically it's about this person who wakes up in a different body each day. So kind of it's the mind or the soul, and they change people every day and only live one day as them. Which in itself is a really cool concept, and it also raises awareness for the fact that everyone has a story to tell and everyone has different emotions. But that aside, we have, again, as in Openly Straight, it just touches on a lot of different issues, so like depression, again labels, like the body image. So it's just really interesting because we have every day a different person, and therefore we have a different personality each day, I guess. It's kind of a new form of self-awareness, I'd say. However, with that there was a little bit of an issue that I find kind of confusing, because when the protagonist talks about the body, they sometimes say I and sometimes they, or he or she. So I was a bit confused by that, but I guess it is kind of hard to distinguish between that if you live in the body. What I really liked again were the chapters. We also we have the chapters with numbers of the day, which I find really fitting. But we also have we have really short chapters, so there are some chapters that are only like 6 sentences long, but there are also chapters of a few pages, so it's dependent on how boring or interesting the day was, and I think that's really realistic. And I think what stuck with me the most is that it's mostly written in first person narrator, and I think we all know this, when it's the first person narrator, that you kind of feel connected and you feel like they're part of you or you are part of them. So you have like, I don't know, this voice in your head about how they talk. But with this is really, not possible basically, because it's constantly changing. So for example, the voice in my head I heard reading this, or telling this story, I guess, was always changing, and that was really interesting to see for myself how much the description of a body influences the self-image of the narrator. But as I said, it's a really great book, and I would really like to know in the comments down below whether you read the book or not, which you really should. One thing that the protagonist would have to know about you if they were to live in your body for one day. I'm gonna go now, make myself some tea. Hopefully I'll be better next week when I'll see you again. And I hope you always have a reason to smile. Goodbye.